I would say if you hate doing something, you're not going to stick with it. So you don't have to force yourself to keep going. And, it's not about willpower and whether you're weak or whether because sometimes you just don't like something. If you take like people's food tastes, like some people like certain flavors, some people don't like other flavors. So I think actually if we take that kind of approach, it's a very personal journey.
You're listening to Speaking of Language, a podcast recorded at the Language Resource Center at Cornell University. Each week, we explore a topic related to language pedagogy and second language acquisition. This week on Speaking of Language,
YouTuber Matt Brooks Green joins us to talk about his channel, Language Learning for Mortals. He'll share his perspective on picking up new languages outside of the classroom.
Welcome to a new episode of Speaking of Language. I'm Angelica Kramer, the director of the Language Resource Center at Cornell University.
And I'm Sam Lupowitz, the LRC's media manager. We are excited to welcome Matt Brooks Green to our podcast today.
Matt is a popular YouTuber and avid language learner who shares straightforward advice for people trying to learn a new language on his channel.
Welcome to Speaking of Language, Matt.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
So, Matt, before we start talking about your YouTube channel, tell us more about you and your path with languages.
Well, I feel like I'm a bit late to the game. There's some people who've got a million languages under their belt, but I did German in school, and I was not a German speaker. Sorry, Angelica, just was not happening.
That's
okay. I spent one day going through Berlin, and I confirmed that I knew close to zero German. But years later, I started doing Chinese martial arts, so kung fu and sort of Tai Chi, and just went on a trip to do some training out in China. And to go on that trip, we learnt, your basic "I'm going abroad" type phrases, just to dip the toe in. But the thing about mainland China is it's changed a little bit now, but people are so encouraging. You say like one or two words, and people will tell you that you've got the best Chinese they've ever heard, which sort of was quite motivating. And sort of going back year after year, I was trying to at least learn a few more words. And after a while, I started to find myself saying to people, "I'm learning Chinese," which wasn't quite the case. There's a difference between what I was doing every single day and actually what you need to do to learn another language. So it took me a while to get there, but eventually I found this whole idea of getting lots of input and focusing on communication, graded readers, blah, blah, blah. Started to go quite well. Started to make some progress with the old Chinese. And then I met a beautiful woman who's now my wife, and her brother lives in Madrid, which was then like, well, if I'm going to speak to his family, now I need to start learning some Spanish. So I've had to put Chinese to the side for the last little while and focus on Spanish. So the Chinese has slightly fallen out of my head. I need to catch a bit of that again at some stage. But the last sort of two and a half years or so, I've been focusing on Spanish. Not too long before I started my channel, and it's going all right.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So that's a great seg to talk about Language Learning for Mortals, which is your YouTube channel. What can viewers find there, and what prompted you to start this project?
It's one of those ones where if lots of people have experience of how to learn a language, if you're a language teacher, it might seem the most obvious thing of the things you need to do if maybe you speak however many languages. But certainly in the UK, we're not exactly known for being polyglots. And I just wanted to help people who are in that position of wanting to learn a new language, but not quite necessarily knowing the tools that they need to get there. I don't think it's about finding the one perfect method, because ultimately that's not really going to exist. You're going to be so much better off if you just look at your day-to-day habits, the sorts of things that you like, that you enjoy, and then focus on those. So I essentially focus the channel on just doing that, just fairly straightforward advice, just trying to help people that some people might think seems fairly obvious if they've got years and years of experience, but until you know these things, actually it's not necessarily quite so obvious for people. So yeah, hopefully I'm helping some people learn some languages, which I think makes the world a friendlier place.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And we certainly need more of that to go around.
Tell me about it.
On your channel, you have various playlists with interviews, experiments, lazy learning, language habits, and much more. From the work that you have done so far, what is the best straightforward advice for adults who want to learn a new language?
I think if you focus on habits, start small. What is the thing that you can do every day? If you don't have to cancel your life and suddenly, move abroad to start to learn a language, because realistically, you might give up. So if you start small, create a small daily habit that you find rewarding or enjoyable enough at least. And over time, that's just normal. That's just what you do every day. And you can increase the amount of time you do every day. And I think that's the way to start. Start small. You don't have to change everything. And over time, that compounding effect will just pay dividends.
Are there things you've found that language learners should avoid?
That's a tricky one, isn't it? I think sometimes we can, especially with the internet, there's so much information out there and it's just overwhelming for people, isn't it? And try everything. Why not? Give it a go. If you think that there's stuff that might work for you, I try to avoid too much in videos saying, don't do this, this won't work. Because who am I to say that someone else might not like that? That might actually really appeal to someone. And if there was one way to learn a language, we would know what it was, because nothing else would work. So there clearly isn't the one single true way to learn a language. So you might as well see what initially appeals to you and take it from there. So I don't think there's necessarily anything you should avoid, but I would say if you hate doing something, you're not going to stick with it. So you don't have to force yourself to keep going. And, it's not about willpower and whether you're weak or whether because sometimes you just don't like something. That's fine. I was thinking about it the other day in terms of if we take people's food tastes, like some people like certain flavors, some people don't like other flavors. It sounds, when you put it in those terms, it's kind of stupid to say to someone, oh, you like chocolate ice cream? Pfft, no, I don't like chocolate ice cream. No, never had. No, never liked it. It's like, okay, cool. I like it. That's fine. Yeah. So I think actually if we take that kind of approach, it's a very personal journey. Don't worry about necessarily what everyone says is right or wrong. Sometimes just go with what your gut is. And after a while, if you think, oh, actually, I'm not quite seeing the results I want to do something that perhaps feels more intensive, well, then perhaps you're more accustomed to doing something. You can do more stuff over time, but you don't have to do it all right now. And I think that's sometimes where people get a bit tripped up with it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Even though I'm not sure that you could trust anyone who doesn't like chocolate.
I certainly feel
there must
that
be
way.
someone somewhere, surely.
Oh, I bet there are allergies to chocolate. Wouldn't that be sad?
Oh no, what a sad world. I think there's sort of an overlap in the online space between language learning and self-help. And sometimes I think people want this, they're looking for this perfect way to learn a language in the fastest way possible. Enjoyment has nothing to do with it. And I sort of, there is, in some spheres, not everywhere, most people are great, but there's sometimes like an element of that kind of toxic productivity sneaks in. Oh, if you don't do this method, you're somehow missing out, or, it says something about you if you can't stick with doing 2 hours of flashcards a day. And, life's too short. Life's too short.
Right? Yeah. No, absolutely. Agreed. So, Matt, you just referred to the abundance of materials that are available online. And you also talk about language apps in various videos. What is the dark side of those apps? And is there a light at the end of the app tunnel?
Very good question. I think with apps, it's like shiny new object syndrome. There's nothing wrong with apps, right? Like you said in our interview, Angelica, it's great to take a gamified approach if that appeals to you. That's fantastic. And I remember slightly gamified, but when I was counting my hours in Spanish, that really motivated me to keep going. But if I look back to when I was not making progress with Chinese, I assumed it was the app was the problem. Oh, I just hadn't found the right app. I just need to go and use another thing or something else. And I was always downloading or looking in forums, best app to learn Chinese. Ultimately, I wasn't really focusing on my Chinese. And so there is a bit of a balance there, I think, where it's not just about the app per se, because with consistency with anything, you can make some progress. I think it's perhaps more about thinking about your relationship with technology. And I feel like when you constantly lust after some perfect app, it sounds weird, but in a way you give a bit of your responsibility to the app. And you're like, oh, well, I'm not making progress. It's the app's fault. Now, we shouldn't all go around blaming ourselves for our progress, because language learning takes a long time. I think we just need to be compassionate with ourselves. I think in the modern world, everyone's very quick to want everything yesterday. But if we're more compassionate and just take responsibility, this is going to take a while, but I'm in control, I think that's perhaps more important. So it's not the apps per se. It's more our relationship with technology, which is no longer going to be going away anywhere, is it?
Oh, indeed. Yes.
Yeah, that's something we've talked about in one or two or more podcasts.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine.
Have you observed any differences, at least for yourself, in learning Chinese versus learning Spanish?
Yeah, I mean, every language you're going to have a different relationship with it, right? Even down to your relationship with your motivations, should we say? Maybe not the perfect way to phrase that, but with Spanish, I've got a more immediate desire to get very good at Spanish because I want to be having in-depth conversations with family, as opposed to being able to just enjoy conversations and just chat with people in China, which I would only go to once a year for a couple of weeks, I know it's a little bit different if I'm meeting people in the UK and things, but that was my motivation. And so that's part of it. And of course, languages are different. I remember thinking when I started Spanish, oh man, everyone's telling me how Chinese is so hard, and I've been learning Chinese, so Spanish must be simple. Right. And then you come across Spanish grammar, and I'm sort of struggling to get even a few words out without messing up my conjugations. Whereas you look at Chinese grammar, I was like, oh my God, that was so much easier. So it is just very, very different. But I think focusing on just getting lots of input first of all, for me, has just really helped give me a good base in each of the languages, which makes the whole process enjoyable as well. I'm not forcing myself to do anything I'm not ready for, which I think takes a bit of the pressure off for learners.
Yeah.
So switching gears a little bit, I have a very important topic that we need to address. Please tell us more about your dog who appears in a few of your videos.
It's not like I try to put him in the videos, but he'll follow me around whenever I'm filming, bless him. And there's somewhere I've sort of have a casual moment where I sit down on the floor and he'll just sit between my legs. And the dog's in the shot, then great. He's Ralph. Ralph, he's a Springer Spaniel cross Golden Retriever, who he's now 9 years old, believe it or not, but he still acts like a puppy. So we got him as a rescue, and it's a bit of a cliche, but he absolutely loves puddles, and I can't get him away from them. He absolutely loves them. But yes, he features in many a video, bless him.
Yes.
Right.
Well, everybody needs a sidekick, right? So.
Oh well, there you go.
True.
I'll get him a cape.
Or a motivation, as previously discussed. Nothing like seeing a cute dog to keep your attention.
Well, there you go.
Great. So you started your channel about 2 years ago. If you had to distill what you've learned and covered since you launched into a single piece of advice, what would that be?
Oh, that's a great question. A single piece of advice. Well, I think it would come back to habits. Start small and build it up over time. Be kind to yourself and enjoy the process. Because if you're not enjoying it, it's very hard to stick with it. But if it sounds simple, if you can do those things, you're already winning. And I think sometimes in this online space, everybody's looking left and right at what everyone else is doing. But what other people are doing doesn't really matter in your learning. If you're enjoying yourself, then it's great.
Yep. No, that's excellent advice. Now, for those listeners who may be interested in starting their own YouTube channel, what advice would you have for them?
Oh, it's how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is the question with YouTube. It's one of those ones. If anyone is interested in just starting a channel for the sake of it, don't worry. Do what you want. If it's just a hobby and you don't worry about views or anything else like that, just enjoy it, because as soon as you start getting into metrics, it's a slippery slope. But yes, I'm in comparison to most people in my niche, I'm a very small channel compared to some of the big ones out there. But it's all about the idea. If you haven't got a good idea, no one will click on it, and you can try and polish it however you want, but it's not going to catch anyone's attention. So you could spend hours making a video that no one would be that interested in, and then after that, it's always the golden rule. And I break this sometimes, but the golden rule is make your title and thumbnail first before you make your video, because you could spend all that time making the perfect video, but if your title and thumbnail are rubbish, you've wasted hours and hours of your life. So if you can make the title and thumbnail first, you're already winning. And everybody goes through the process. We all learn it at some point. You make this video, you go to upload it, and it says, what do you want your title and thumbnail to be? You go, oh, I haven't thought about that. It's probably not that important. I'll just upload it and I'll make it a little thing on Canva. So yes, title and thumbnail first. And then after that, the world's your oyster. Just enjoy.
I like it. Well, and I do have to say you are good with titles, because I love the name of the channel. So well done on that one.
And what future plans do you have for your channel right now?
Well, I'm doing a few little experiments. I think experiment is possibly the wrong term to use, given that I'm talking to people at Cornell University. But fun little ideas that I've had where it's just trying something for 30 days. I think it's a more interesting idea to share my experience trying something as it is just talking to a camera going, hey, here's this idea. So I don't know when your plan is on releasing this podcast, but hopefully in a couple of days, if I can get everything ready, I'll have a video coming out saying I tried to learn a language like it's 1999. And so that was which I thought was a fun title. And but so it's an experiment I tried. Rather than talking about technology, I thought, well, what happens if you take away all the technology? So that was a really enjoyable little thing that I did, and actually surprisingly impactful rather, I should say. So yeah, I'm going to try a few more of those. I've got another one of those to edit. It's quite work intensive, though. I'm not one of these smart YouTubers who does the bare minimum of work and gets the maximum views from it. I tend to put in a lot of effort, and I get some views, which is fine. So I'd quite like to do
relatable, yeah.
I want to make things that eventually I can look back on and not cringe at, and I want to be proud of some of the things that I've made. So I just need to improve my skills first of all. But and just keep helping people. I've got a few ideas cooking, but just more things along those lines, and perhaps trying to work out exactly what it is that learners struggle with, just to address their problems, because if someone who's a polyglot's giving a lot of advice, I think that's valuable, and I can't really argue with that. But I think it's sometimes if someone else is on the path as well, I think that can be that can be helpful. It's more like an experienced classmate turning to someone else and going, "Oh, hey, I tried this. What do you think about that?"
Right.
And they go, "Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, no, that's great." And whereas if someone's had a morning routine to learn 50 languages for the last 30 years, whatever it is, who knows? It's harder to relate to for some people. It's like, well, I do 0 minutes a day currently, so I can't really jump up to the level that you're yet talking about. So it's just about getting started. So if I can address some of those things, then that would be great. But so it's a long-winded way of getting to that question. But yeah, just trying to help people as much as I can, and sort of help this problem that is language learning.
Mm-hmm. What's the next language you are going to learn?
Well,
is there another one in your future?
Well, I do need to. I feel like I've mentioned Chinese so many times that I feel like I've forgotten so much. There is something there. I can understand some podcasts that I've listened to, and I can say some stuff. But in reality, I suspect I've lost a fair bit of my Chinese. So. Chinese doesn't count because I have started with some Chinese already. So, and Mandarin Chinese for anyone who's interested. And then at some stage, French, just because I live in the south of England. So it's so easy to get on the train and go to France now. It's just mad that I don't do it more. So yeah, some French, and my granddad was Irish. So I'd quite like to learn some Irish as well, because it's one of those sad things. He wasn't allowed to speak Irish in school, but he spoke at home. So just one of those things. I kind of feel I would be closer to him in that kind of way if I learned some Irish as well. Yeah, so, but other than that, I don't have plans to learn a million languages, and even those two, I don't need to get them to C2 level, which I think sometimes is a bit of a misnomer online. You know, if you don't learn a language to this super advanced level, then there's no point. Well, you can connect with people actually without huge amounts of it. And that's part of the joy. You can learn about other cultures without necessarily being able to read academic literature. You know?
Yeah.
Well, and day-to-day conversation in any language never takes place at the most advanced proficiency level anyway. I mean,
yeah, totally. And who cares about a few mistakes here and there?
Yep.
So, and if people do care, then they're probably not the kind of people you want to care about anyway. So it's sort of, that's just life, right?
Point well taken, yes.
Absolutely. So, Matt, where can our listeners learn more about you and your work?
So I've currently only got just my YouTube channel. So it's Matt Brooks Green on YouTube, and got some videos there, hopefully to help students with their language journeys.
And there is a newsletter that viewers can subscribe to, right?
Such a professional, Angelica. There you go. So I do have a newsletter that I link underneath all my videos. So if anyone's interested, I send out some tips every week, and it just sometimes things are a little bit more in depth. I don't necessarily have to be quite so YouTubey. So yes, just underneath all my videos, there's a link to my newsletter as well.
Awesome, and we will make sure to link to that channel in our show notes, of course.
Yes.
So Matt, this was so much fun catching up with you.
That's been great. Thank you so much.
Before we sign off, though, we'd like to ask you for a word in a language that you speak, you love, you are learning, you may want to learn, that feels good to say.
Can I go with two, or must I have one?
No, you may go with two. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, it's only because the one that everybody says, and it is great to say in Spanish, is if someone's picky with their food. In Spain, at least, they say that they're tiquismiquis, which is just tiquismiquis. It's just like a nice little fun thing. I don't know. I like that one. And then a word came up in a chat I was having with a teacher the other day, and it's just a very mundane word, but I just enjoyed saying it. It's the word for dehumidifier, deshumidificador.
Oh,
I just enjoy the feeling of that in my mouth. Deshumidificador. Lovely.
I like it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for speaking of language with us, Matt.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great.
Next week, we will talk with our most recent LRC Speaker Series presenter, Dr. Tom Garza, about addressing Gen Z learner identities through differentiated language instruction. You can catch his talk live on Zoom tomorrow or wait until next week's episode.
Actually, we think you should do both. Until then,
Auf Wiederhören!
The Language Resource Center is located on the ground floor of Stimson Hall on Cornell's main campus in Ithaca, New York. Check us out on the web at lrc.cornell.edu.
and follow Cornell LRC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Speaking of Language is produced by Angelika Kramer and Sam Lupowitz.
Recorded by Sam Lupowitz.
Original music by Sam Lupowitz, Dan Gable, and Joe Gibson.
Thanks also to the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell University.
As a reminder, the ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the College of Arts and Sciences or any other official entity of Cornell University.
We thank our listeners, and do stay tuned for our next episode.